Welcome back to the Ohio Business Spotlight. I'm Tony Miltenberger, and I'm here with my co-host, the legendary Greg
Greg
Fay.
Fay, legendary.
The
He's not even a legend
legendary,
in his own mind,
the
everybody else's
legend.
mind.
Oh my God,
Greg,
you
why
caught me
don't you
off guard with
tell?
that one.
I know I did. Why don't you tell everybody who our incredible guest is, also legendary?
And I'm really excited to have Dan Apolito here. Dan and I met back 13
Almost
years
15.
ago.
Gosh,
Yep,
you
I
guys
did
are old.
I just had the spotlight that we wrote for you in 2013 pop up in my memories, and I enjoyed sitting down talking to you then. And then over these 13 years or 13 plus years, I've gotten a chance to know you. I've gotten a chance to come to your business. I've gotten a chance to meet your family. And I thought this is a time to renew it because this spotlight is going to be better than ever because your story is incredible. So, Dan Apolito, owner of Archer's Tavern. Tony, take it away.
Dan, one of the things that I know about the restaurant business is that it's incredibly difficult to maintain excellence over a long period of time. As you think about the business that you've created at multiple locations, what do you think sets your restaurants apart from the competitors?
Easy, our people. We have the best people in the industry. Um, we empower them to do the right thing. We do the best we can to train them, but we just hire good, solid people and they run it for us.
Okay, so I know that there are a lot of leaders who are listening to this and they're like, Dan, we need good people too. What's your process? Take us behind the scene, lift up the curtain. Let us see exactly what makes your hiring process so good and how you know that you're dialed in on good people.
Well, I've got two partners in the business, Scott and Mike. Mike's the operating partner with me, and we take choosing our people very seriously. We try to connect with people during an interview on a personal level. I've always had this philosophy that, we're really, as human beings, we're trained or guided by our faith, by our parents, by our teachers. By the time you come to work for Archer's Tavern, there's not a whole lot we can teach you about being nice, about smiling, about personal communication, things like that. So we look for those core principles and we really dig deep into the values that people have. Do they care about people as people? Do they want to be successful? Do they strive for excellence? Can they take feedback well without taking it personal? Because we can train you how we make our chicken wings, and we can train you how to make a sauce. I have never been able to train anyone other than my children to be good people.
Yeah.
So we hire good people. And if we hire good people, then we teach them how to do the rest. And I really think that's been one of the keys to our successes.
Do you, I know from being at your restaurants and I know from talking to you that culture is such a big part of what you do. Once you get the good person in, you kind of teach them the language. Talk to me about the process that you came up with to create your kind of your culture document and how you insert that into the people who say yes to being a part of your team.
Well, I think we actually started creating our culture document, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but when we were kids, Mike and I had similar upbringings. We're both faith-based people. So our church played a role in it. Our parents played a role in it. I mean, I can remember sitting in eighth grade thinking about what I wanted my life to look like, the things that my coaches taught me in sports about hard work, determination, not giving up. So I know it sounds kind of ridiculous. And I've been in the restaurant industry for 30 years now, 15 of them as an owner. But my parents, my teachers, the priests at my church, they all taught me how to be a good person. So I've been making decisions about this. I'm in my early 50s, literally for 45 plus years. And that's where the culture comes from. Education, my other jobs, my relationships with people in the community. I don't think there's anybody that I ever interact with that doesn't have something they can teach me if I'm open to learning. So it seems kind of silly, but our culture started 45 years ago, 30 years before we ever even opened our first restaurant. Is that cheesy?
No, I love it.
Okay, it's true.
I would
I want to say
add,
this real quick. I actually remember I was sitting in a intro to business class at Centerville High School, my hometown, and we read a book called Good to Great, or I'm sorry, it was In Search of Excellence
Mm.
um, by Tom Peters. And I remember back then thinking, man, I would love to be a part of a company like this. And I was a sophomore in high school. So I know I started thinking about culture back then.
wow, it's no wonder. I was telling Tony how you empower your employees to handle things that other restaurant operations would not dare empower their employees to handle. With another restaurant, you may bump into a server that has to go seek approval or something like that. It's no wonder with the high quality people that you hire that you can empower them. Can you speak a little bit to that right there, Dan?
Yeah, and it goes back to hiring people with good principles and good character. I can actually tell you, tell you this story as quickly as I can. I was at a big national chain years ago, and my soup was cold. And the manager ran by. He didn't stop at the table. He kind of gave me eye contact and said, "Is everything okay?" And I could tell he was preoccupied and had somewhere else he was trying to get to. And I said, "Sure, it's okay." And then the server came up and said, "How is everything?" I said, "Well, my soup's cold." And she said, "Well, let me go get a manager." And I'll never forget that because I thought, what's he going to do? The soup's cold. Either take it off my bill, heat it up, or bring me a new one. This is not, I don't need somebody at a higher level to make a decision that I need hot soup. And that happened 25 years ago. It was at my sister's birthday party. We were in a big group. And I said, if I ever own a restaurant, I'm never going to ask a server to go get a manager to make a decision they're 100% capable of making. Um, so yeah, I mean, we hire smart people who make good decisions, and when it's time to make a decision, we let them make it. The toughest thing is when they make a decision that maybe is different than the one I would make, because then we go into, hey, thank you for making the decision. We're so glad you did. Next time that comes up, maybe consider A, B, and C. But rarely does anybody come to me with a decision if it's geared toward taking care of one of our guests that I disagree with, because it's all about just taking care of guests.
One of the questions that I was curious about, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before, is that the landscape for finding good quality people and talent has drastically shifted, particularly post 2020. So I'm curious, what are some of the tactics that you guys use to find people? How do you cultivate that community around you to constantly send that, maybe that young person or that person who's in a transition? How do you send those people in?
Well, you're absolutely right. And one, it takes patience. We have to look at 5 times more people than we used to have to find the right fit for us. And, in any kind of culture, values change. And the people that we are hiring now have different values than the people we hired 10 years ago. It has become much more difficult ever since the pandemic. So we have to be more patient. I think during the interview process, we have to ask more guided, specific questions and really dig down to try to get to that core of finding people. We have a term we use at our restaurant called a servant's heart. And our definition of that is someone who wants to serve people without the need to necessarily be recognized or rewarded. So we really try to find people who come in and want to take care of people because it makes them feel good at the end of every day. And, technology is another. It helps us find more people, but it doesn't necessarily help us find better people.
Mm.
So I would say if there's one thing that's been a struggle for us post pandemic, it's been being patient enough to find exactly the type of people you're talking about, because it's getting tougher and tougher. But we find them; they're out there.
So good.
One of the things that's always interesting about someone like yourself who runs a restaurant at multiple locations, you've got lots of people in your world. There are a lot of things that are on your plate all the time. I happen to know you're writing a book as well. You've got a family. How do you avoid burnout? Like, what are some of the things that you do as a leader at a high level to avoid just throwing in the towel like so many have before you?
Well, for me, it's about people and it's about the challenges and helping people grow. I've said this for years. We're in the hospitality and people industry. We just happen to sell food and have a great bar.
That's good.
But there are so many other restaurants that serve buffalo wings, that serve burgers. There's nothing magic about that. So I dedicate my time and energy to developing people. And I can tell you this, and I know both of you, and I know both your character, that you never get burnout of taking care of people and helping people. So that would be my answer. And then, for some of the logistics type stuff, I always like to challenge myself, find new things, new menu items. I like to go out in the market and research new stuff. And I love to bounce ideas off. Some of my best friends own restaurants. From the outside looking in, people might say they're our competition, but they're my best allies and my closest friends. So challenging ourselves, always looking for something new. But man, I don't think you can ever get burnt out of taking care of people and helping people grow. I love it.
One of the things that I know about you is that you build community wherever you are. And this year, you shared with me a story about the community that you're building in Buffalo around wing competition. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you could tell that story,
Wow.
if you could talk a little bit about that. I think that's so good.
Well, I don't want to bore you, but
No, bore. This is why we're here. Bore
all
us,
right.
please.
I'm
Years
glad you asked
ago-
this question.
Years ago, I saw something about the National Buffalo Wing Festival. I saw it on the Food Network, actually, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if I brought one of our sauces there as an amateur just to get some feedback, see if maybe we could win a trophy. So I sent him an email, and I didn't hear back for a couple weeks. Well, I was actually sitting down with one of my managers, and my phone rang. And I looked at it, and on the call waiting, the name Drew Serza came up. That wasn't a contact I had in my phone book, but it came up, and I thought, Drew Serza, how do I know that name? And I honestly it didn't click right then. So I picked up the phone. I said, this is Dan. He said, hey, it's Drew Serza from the Wing Festival. I said, oh my gosh, yeah, what's going on, Drew? And I said, I had a question. I want to bring a sauce, but I own a restaurant. I don't want to get into that. I just want to bring it. And if I win something, it'd be cool to come back and I can use it for some marketing. He said, Dan, why don't you come, bring the restaurant, enter the competition? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if it helps me in Buffalo. He said, look, you're going to meet a guys. It's like a fraternity here. These are the best guys, not only in the U.S., but from around the world. And it's a very limited number of people that they let in this. So I said, all right, I'll do it. So I came in. The first year we were there, we entered 3 categories and we placed in all 3.
Let's
And
go.
it was so cool to be on that stage when they said from Dayton, Ohio. And I'm like, there's nobody else from Dayton, Ohio. There's no way. And they go, Dan, come on up here for Archer's Tavern. And we've gone back every year since. I want to tell you this other part of the story too, because this was so cool. It was so important to me to bring that experience back to Dayton. And the only way I could think to do it was to do like a social media live thing. So I put it on my camera and I'm walking through and I saw a tent for BW3s. So I just go, oh, hey, there's another Ohio restaurant. And there's a gentleman, just one guy in the tent. And he goes, hey, Scott Lowry founder of BW3s. And I'm like, what? And I just kind of kept going. So I came back to him after I finished walking through the stadium there and filming it all. I said, Scott, the founder? He goes, yeah, that's me. And we've been friends ever since. So how cool is it that I get to call whenever I want the founder of BW3s and get advice from him? In fact, he's going to come visit in Dayton in a couple weeks. So, I mean, that's the kind of access I've had to people through this festival. And we've won some pretty cool trophies too. So it's one of the highlights of owning my own restaurant for sure. And it's a great example of how I stay energized. I mean, I hope you can feel it. I'm energized now. I love talking about it. I'm going to Buffalo
Tony,
again over Labor Day weekend. We're going to bring some more trophies home.
Well, Tony, that was a great question about community. You definitely picked something out that Dan does that's incredible. Dan, you also have a community here that it's associated with your restaurant, but you do the chili cook-off.
Yep.
And you invite private chefs to come and enter. And the coolest part is I got a chance to be a judge in that right there. So kind of explain, how was that born?
All right, that's awesome. I love this story too. So before we opened, I was talking to my partner Mike, and I said, I always thought it would be cool to have a chili cook-off, but whoever won, we would serve their chili. And now that I own a restaurant, we could do that. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. I don't care. So we did it that first year. We've done it 14 years since. There was one off year because of the pandemic and whatnot, but we're now on our 14th recipe and it's not chefs. It's anybody can enter it. So most of these are amateur chefs, and I get to try grandma's favorite recipe that's third generation, and there are some restaurant people that come in and enter their chili, but man, that's absolutely one of my most fun weekends in the fall. And then we get the recipe, and then we do everything we can to recreate it exactly. We bring the winner in. We tell them, does this pass the test? If they say it tastes like homemade, then it's on there for the next year. And man, we get a lot of credit for that. And it's usually around in the fall. It's one of the most fun events we do every year.
I hope everyone is hearing this thread of community in Dan's story, because I think it's critical to what we're called to do as business leaders. One of the things I know about you is you're really generous with the Centerville community, the local Centerville community. You go out of your way to help people, and you're always leaning into that. So when you think about all the opportunities in the community, whether that's partnering with Bill's Donuts or helping the Centerville Elks football team, how do you decide what the right yeses and what the right nos are when obviously there's so much need and there's so much opportunity to do good work?
Such a great question, Tony.
That is a great question. I hope my answer rises to the level.
I'm sure it will.
I mean, it always comes.
You're going to be
people.
fine, Dan.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story that maybe ties this in. We get calls all the time. Hey, can you sponsor this? Hey, can you sponsor this? And my first question I ask, we don't write a lot of checks. If somebody comes and says, will you donate this for this? We'll donate time, we'll donate gift cards, we'll do a lot, but rarely do we just write a check. So anyway, I'll get a phone call, and again, I get dozens every month, and they'll say, hey, do you want to take an ad out in this, whatever, the volleyball championships are happening at the arena, Centerville Elks are in there, do you want to take an ad out? And my first question to them is, how much of that money goes back to the team? And if they tell me 80% or more, it's typically like, okay, then I'll do it. But if they say, well, it goes into printing and it goes into this, well, if the team's not really getting that much, I'm not really that interested. But if a coach calls me, or a cheerleader, or somebody from theater or the band, if one of the kids comes in and says, hey, we need some help sponsoring this, it's almost a guaranteed yes, we will. But if it's some corporation in Texas that's just selling ads, and granted, it might benefit the high school, but if it's not going directly to the kids and the coaches, then we probably pass on it. And that's how we measure it.
That's a great answer. I love everything about that.
You killed it, Dan.
Okay, let's talk about saying yes to risky and bold moves in your life. You entered into the restaurant business, and then you expanded upon it, which not a lot of people do. How do you discern, kind of, what's your decision making matrix around what you're willing to do boldly when it comes to these kind of decisions of like, okay, let's try another location?
Well, you always have to do your due diligence, but the biggest decisions 100% of the time come from the heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, we've looked at different locations, and we've pulled out of some. We've never had a signed contract, but we'd have letters of intent. And then as Mike and our other partner, Scott, and I move along, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right, and we don't do it. And at the same time, when it does feel right, who in the world's going to stop us? It's okay to stub your toe. It's okay to hit some hurdles. We know that's coming. But I mean, I didn't talk about all the pitfalls in the chili cook-off, like trip sockets and electricity going out in the restaurant. I mean, the first time we did it, it was borderline disaster, and we were just like, no, we're going to figure this out. It's actually in our culture. One of our values is we'll figure it out, which means if we want to do something, nobody can stop us. And it's also okay to fail. Failing is just learning. You don't fail until you give up and you stop trying. So the biggest, boldest decisions come from the heart.
I'm going to tell a story about you, Dan, that you won't share because you're too humble. And then I'll be done with my questions. But Tony, I didn't send this one to you right here. But when I interviewed Dan for a spotlight back in 2013, they were getting ready to or had just went into Waynesville with Stonehouse Tavern. And one of the things that he discovered when he went into Waynesville was there weren't very many liquor licenses. And they happened to whatever worked out with the lease or the building, they were privy to having a liquor license, at least beer and wine, as far as I knew.
That's right.
And Dan found out that there were one or two mom and pop pizza places in town that served beer, and he did not want to put either one of them. He didn't want to challenge either one of them's success. So he opted not to serve his most successful menu item, pizza, down there in Waynesville because he knew that would immediately challenge them and put them at a competitive. Oh no, they didn't have liquor licenses.
That's
right.
How
I got.
We had the only one at the time.
They didn't. Yeah, he had the only one at the time, and you opted not to serve pizza because you knew that somebody locally, a local business, would be affected. And man, that
I'm so glad you corrected that because I was afraid. I didn't want to stop the story by saying, well, actually, we had the only liquor license. And I tell people this too. The only thing better than outstanding service and incredible food is a monopoly. And for a while, we had a monopoly in Waynesville with the only liquor license. But you're absolutely right. There were two locally owned mom and pop pizza restaurants in a very small town of Waynesville. And we made a decision, you know what? We're going to have an advantage over them, what you want in business. But we just didn't feel like it was right for us to come in and we could survive without pizza. So we made a decision we're not going to offer pizza like we did at the other two restaurants. Wow. And that was one of the values we have is there's enough people in any community, any size community for us all to share. So I'm tickled, I guess, that you remember that, Greg.
I love that story.
I tell stories all the time, and I have no idea what'll stick.
Tony, land this plane, brother.
All right, Dan, let's say that you're sitting across from a young entrepreneur, somebody who wants to be bold and step into an Ohio business spotlight themselves. If you were going to give them one piece of advice about what it means to be a business owner, what would you tell them?
Start. Go. Do it.
Ooh.
Planning is not progress. Like, you got to take that first step and you got to do it. And you're going to stub your toe. You're going to stumble. But, man, go do it. That's it. Go. Make it happen. You will be successful because if you refuse to give up, it's impossible to lose.
Dan, where can everybody find you on the interwebs? Where is the best place to learn all things about your restaurants and your book when it comes out?
ArchersTavern.com, SHTavern.com for Stonehouse. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and you're really pushing this book, and I love the pressure you're putting on me.
I know. You do. I just heard some really good wisdom. Just go.
Just go. Yeah, well, wow. Boy, you turned that on me quick.
Dan, thank you so much for being so.
When it comes out, that's where you'll find me.
Hey, look,
you got to be careful though. You got to be careful to open up to Tony. He's going to use that stuff right away.
Well, come on, Dan. You have an open invite on my podcast when that book is done. You just tell me when. You got it.
I'll be back. You guys inspire me.
It's so good.